May makes have been all about the tops. Hello and welcome. I'm Akram Burris, and you're watching Akram's Ideas, bringing creative and crazy ideas to life. Can you believe we are now in the month of June, and it feels like all the days are starting to blend together if they haven't already. So with that said, as we are now well into June, I'm going to be sharing with you guys my May/April makes. I didn't get a whole lot done in April per se, but a handful of things. But May, I've got a couple of things to show you. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, you may recall that I did put out an April's Plan video. At the end of March, or early April, I finished the So Fearless challenge that I hosted along with Megan from Megan Handmade. And I made my 1980s style blazer using vintage McCall's 3580, which was basically just a sort of power suit. And who knew I would be so on trend, as I understand the Great British Sewing Bee not too long ago had 80s week, and power suit jackets or 80s blazers was one of the challenges. So I was ahead of the game, and let's just say that I really loved this blazer. Now granted, I made it at the very end of March, but it really wasn't part of my March makes. So I started off with that, and then going into my April plans, I wanted to create some coordinating things to go with that blazer, and it didn't go as planned. The first thing that I wanted to do was make Simplicity 5456, which is another 80s pattern that is basically the top that I'm wearing here. And I wanted to make this particular pattern in a yellow crepe type fabric that I had, but I did not want to mess up that fabric, so I found another lovely crepe that I had in my stash right here to try to do a muslin of this pattern. Now the pattern that I have is a true vintage pattern, and it only came in size 16. Now typically speaking, I can get away with most size 16s and do a little tweaking at the waist and everything, which is what essentially I thought I could do with this pattern, but it did not go with plan. Let's just say that. So the biggest problem with this top are the sleeves are just way too tight, and it takes away from the style of the pattern, because again, the pattern kind of looks like it's got really wide grown on sleeves, and these don't look that big. Again, I'm using a drapier crepe fabric, so that may be part of it, but it doesn't have that fullness, and it's a little tight and kind of puckers up underneath me. I feel like I actually have a lot of room in the bust, which typically I make a size 16, and it fits the bust fairly well, even though it's smaller than my bust measurements. But in big 4 patterns I can get away with it, and with the gatherings there's no bust starts, they're just shoulder gathers. It worked out fine, but because of the sleeves being tight, and also I'm finding it just feels tight along the gathers in the back as well. So I was kind of put down by this because of the way this is put together. It's basically got a shoulder yoke, and then it's got the back piece, and then it's got the front piece. And then it has a mandarin collar, and I don't know if you can even see this. The mandarin collar is all wonky because the instructions for the mandarin collar.
To see more episodes like this, be sure to click the like button, subscribe to Akram's Ideas, and hit the bell icon to get notified of new episodes.
Really confused me. I do feel like I got the little v-neck opening pretty well, pretty spot on, but this mandarin collar did not come out like I wanted it to. And again, I felt like I was a little put off. I do have enough room at the waist because I kind of graded out a little bit to ensure that it would fit around the waist and the hips. I just feel like it would have been nice to give myself a little bit more room to make it a bit looser fit. Right now it's kind of a fitted top. Not that that's a problem, but overall I think the biggest problem are the sleeves. It does not look like the pattern envelope. And I got kind of down about that because I didn't know what I should be doing to make alterations from this point. And I didn't want to cut into my yellow fabric if this didn't work, and I didn't want to screw that one up. So I kind of moved on from there. And I had some other plans from those April makes that you may recall. I didn't even get to them. Mainly because most of the rest of April we're winding down the semester, so I'm pretty busy already, but mostly I ended up making a ton of face masks, and I don't even want to talk about those because that was just like assembly line sewing, not my favorite thing. I made them for a bunch of family and friends, and I am through with making face masks. Yeah, that was a long, tedious process. I did use, if you're curious, I used 2 different patterns. I used the Tilly and the Buttons face mask tutorial to make the majority of them because I didn't have a lot of elastic, and hers uses the little tie straps, and also it has a pocket in there for a filter. The second pattern that I used was the Mimi G method of making the face masks. Again, I didn't have enough elastic to make more of those, but I will say I kind of like the shape and the fit of that one better, but it doesn't have the pocket for the filter if you want to add it. So they were good and bads from both of those, but I don't want to see another face mask. But moving on, after all that, I decided to do something totally different. And I had picked up back in early spring McCall's 8067, which is what they're calling the Liv McCall's shirt pattern. And this came out in early spring, and it is basically a simple collared top. Now, I do have a full review of this pattern because I have some love and hate thoughts about this particular pattern, and I think if I am able to make the adjustments that I need to, I'm going to be able to make this kind of my TNT, my ideal run around t-shirt type pattern. So I ended up making 3 variations of this top. Again, I have the full review on the pattern in a separate video, which you can go check out. And I'll have the link in the description below. So I made 3 versions of the top. I made it all in the short sleeve version, and I made various fitting adjustments as I've gone along, and I still have some to make. After making the 3 variations of 8067, I was kind of, again, put back from all the fitting issues that I had with it, and I knew that I could make it better, but I really wasn't in the mood to actually do more fitting adjustments than I had already done. And as you may have seen from my Show Us Your Stash video, I tore apart my sewing room in reorganization and trying to sort my fabrics and things like that, and I'm still in the process of doing that. While doing that, I came across a box of UFOs that are taking up space where precious fabric could go. So I was like, okay, I am just going to pull out one of these UFOs and complete it. And the one that I pulled out was McCall's 4958. It is a apron pattern that I had cut out, oh gosh, maybe 2-3 years ago now. It's just a simple Thanksgiving print, kind of 1970s-ish style fabric, and I added the ruffles to it. I I really love the look of the overall apron. One of my favorite features of this are the vintage buttons that I use. I don't know if you can be able to see that there, but I use these little wooden buttons. Well, they're plastic buttons that look like wooden buttons, and I think they really give that old-timey sort of 70s does old-timey pinafore apron. I really like the Thanksgiving style print, and I made sure that the center of it had sort of the biggest portion and everything, and it's got the contrast and the ruffle. So overall, I love the apron itself. What I don't like is how the pattern instructed you to make the apron. I've made other apron patterns before, and I will say that this one is probably the most cheaply put together pattern, meaning a lot of it, like the waistband, for instance, it's not a traditional waistband where you have two sides and you fold up the inside. No, they wanted you to cut one waistband, fold in your bib into it, and then fold the bib back out. It was weird. And the tie straps on the back are not double lined. They're only folded over on the end here, so the back of them is exposed. And I know it's just an apron, but it would have taken nothing to cut more of this and enclose it and make it look just a little bit nicer, in my opinion. I even did French seams on parts of this, so I was getting a little picky, I guess you could say, because I finished all the seams. And I guess if you're just using some scrap fabric and you don't have a lot and you want to make yourself a little apron, sure, the techniques that they use in that pattern work well, but I feel like it could have been an even cleaner finish. And as I was going through the instructions, I started thinking to myself, I'm gonna make this look a little bit nicer, even though it's just an apron. But I'm really happy with the final results of the apron. So that is all the makes that I made in April, May. I know it's really not that much in general, and the majority of it was really tops. And I'm still, like I said, have issues with the tops that I made, the one that I'm wearing, the other ones that I made, the 8067, McCall's 8067. While they're all very wearable, they all still have issues. And I think moving forward, before I make myself anything else, I really need to nail down my fitting issues. So that is something that I need to consider as I move forward, because I don't want to make a bunch of stuff that I'm just not very comfortable wearing. With that said, I'd love to hear in the comments below if you made any of the patterns I mentioned and what your thoughts and opinions are. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Akram's Ideas, and thanks for watching.
April and May makes. Let me do that again. So what you made for May, and I would say that an April makes video.